Have you ever just stopped and looked around at all our amazing modern stuff? Instant everything, delivery for anything, and thought to yourself, so why am I so exhausted all the time? If you have, you are definitely not alone. We're going to dive into why modern life, which promises to be so easy, often just leaves us feeling totally wiped out. And the answer, well, it might be hiding inside our own heads.
But first, let's get one thing straight. Complexity isn't always the bad guy. I mean, as Don Norman says here, it's what adds flavor and richness to our lives. Think about it, your favorite hobby, a really good movie, even just the simple ritual of making your morning coffee. A little bit of complexity is what makes life interesting, right? And yet, there's that feeling. You know the one. That feeling of being constantly switched on, always a step behind, never having enough time. It's the huge paradox of living today, isn't it? We have more, we can do more than ever before, but it often feels like we're enjoying it all a lot less.
So what gives? What if the real problem isn't just our jam-packed schedules or our buzzing phones? What if it's something deeper? What if our own brains, the very operating system we use to get through the day, are actually trapping us? Okay, let's start with the world we live in. We're surrounded by what you might call a cult of busyness. This culture where being busy has somehow become the same thing as being important.
I mean, does any of this look familiar? It's this massive pressure to perform being busy. A calendar packed with back-to-back meetings is treated like a badge of honor. And how many times a day do you hear or say, "Oh, I'm just so busy"? The trouble is, all this celebrates frantic activity, not real, meaningful work.
Trying to live in this culture, it can honestly feel like you're just constantly swimming upstream against a powerful current. It is so tiring. And it feels like our gut instincts about when to work, when to rest, and how to connect are just wrong. And you know what? There's a really good reason for that. So, here it is. This is the absolute heart of the problem. The hardware we have in our heads is ancient, but the world it's trying to run in is brand new. And that creates a major, major conflict. This whole idea has a name. It's called evolutionary mismatch. And it's pretty simple, really. Our brains and our bodies are basically designed for a world that doesn't exist anymore. For literally hundreds of thousands of years, we were hunter-gatherers, and our basic programming just hasn't had time to catch up with the insane changes of the last few hundred years. And this table just lays it out perfectly. I mean, look at the difference. Our brains are built to work with the rhythms of the sun and seasons, focused on immediate stuff like where's dinner coming from, all while living in a small, tight-knit tribe. And today, we live by the alarm clock, we're chasing these abstract 5-year goals, and we're connected to millions of people online. It's a completely different planet. And this explains so much. It's why our instincts can totally backfire on us. You know, that intense craving you get for sugar and fat? That was a lifesaver when calories were rare. Today, not so much. Or that drive to find a partner in a small village? It gets completely overwhelmed by the endless scrolling on a dating app. So this mismatch makes us really vulnerable to some weird mental traps. And the first one is our strange attraction to making things way more complicated than they need to be. They call it complexity bias. Our brains have this funny little quirk where if you show them a simple solution and a complex one, we often just automatically assume the complex one is smarter or better. We mistake something being complicated for it being brilliant.
And this is not a new thing. Confucius was talking about this ages ago. We just have a habit of making things complicated. Modern life, with its constant fire hose of information, just pours gasoline on that fire.
Here is a perfect everyday example of this in action. It is so much easier to get lost in the weeds of your phone bill trying to figure out every little confusing fee that's a complex but pretty low-impact problem than it is to face the simple but maybe uncomfortable truth that you're spending way too much money going out. We pick the complex distraction over the simple, powerful solution.
All right, so that's trap number one. The second big trap is that endless chase for happiness, a race that for a lot of us feels like it has no finish line. It's known as the hedonic treadmill, and the idea is that we all kind of have a built-in happiness set point. No matter what happens in our lives, something amazing or something awful, we have this tendency to eventually drift back to our personal baseline. There was this landmark study back in 1978 that really proved this. Researchers looked at lottery winners and, on the flip side, people who'd had accidents that left them paralyzed. And sure, right after the event, their happiness levels shot way up or way down.
But over time, both groups started to slowly return to where they were before. The thrill of winning wore off, and the trauma of the accident became the new normal. It's wild. And this makes a ton of sense when you find out that research, like a big study on twins from 1996, suggests that about half of our happiness is just determined by our genes. We're kind of hardwired with a happiness range, and we just bounce around inside of it our whole lives. Okay, so we're up against cultural pressure, a brain from the Stone Age, and these weird biases. It might sound kind of hopeless, but I promise you it's not. Just understanding the trap is the very first step to getting out of it.
Seriously, knowing all this isn't a life sentence to being miserable. It's a map. It shows you exactly where the quicksand is. And the way out is to consciously, deliberately choose simplicity. It's about fighting your brain's automatic programming with a much better tool.
And that tool has been around forever. You've probably heard of it, Occam's razor. All it says is that when you have a bunch of different solutions, the simplest one, the one with the fewest moving parts, is almost always the best place to start. It is the perfect weapon against our complexity bias. So how do we actually put this into practice? It's a super simple 3-step process. First, figure out what the real problem is, not the complicated distraction. Second, what's the most direct, no-frills solution you can possibly think of? And third, and this is the most important part, just do that one first. Don't get bogged down in some giant elaborate plan when one simple action will get you moving.
And that really brings us to the whole point. The real takeaway here isn't just knowing about these traps, it's about doing something with that knowledge. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. What is one area of your life, your work, your health, your relationships, that you've been making way too complicated? And what is the absolute simplest first step you could take today to make it better?